The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Great to have you in a Monday edition. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240. You can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. And always submit your thoughts, questions, feedback, reaction on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can watch the show there. Also follow along Hail Varsity Radio at HVarsity Radio on Twitter. Do it that way if you want to submit things. KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Can find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel and at Schmidt_radio. Weekend was good, bad, or ugly, Elijah. How was it? Did you brace for the week of heat? It is gross outside. Many of you are bemoaning it because either you're coaching your little ones with youth football or you remember those dog days of camp. Nebraska having their off day with day one of school with classes starting back at Nebraska. And they got to have a little breakfast and enjoy the new digs. The new facilities look absolutely incredible. Husker Football dropping that on Twitter a little earlier today. Super impressive. And then, of course, you've got all of the amenities there to make you happy and healthy and presumably go get wins on Saturday.
Yeah. The facility's beautiful. My weekend was beautiful. I mean, what more could you ask for? I got to watch Tottenham Hotspur, favorite soccer team. They got the win over Manchester United on Saturday. Then we got to watch UFC Saturday night. Sean O'Malley out of nowhere to take the belt over Aljamain Sterling. That was awesome. And then on Sunday, got some breakfast with my family, did a little shopping, and refreshed the fall wardrobe, and then capped it all off with my dad calling me, or I guess texting me on Sunday afternoon about a tree that fell by his house, and he's like, I'm gonna go cut it up and haul it for free firewood.
You want to do some chainsawing?
Oh, no, he got to do all the chainsawing. I got to do all the hauling. I got to do the picking up of logs and putting them in the back of his truck for this tree that was probably damn near 100 years old, so it's just heavy as all get out. So a moment of silence for the tree, though. Yeah, the tree's seen a whole bunch. It got a little rotten on the bottom, kind of fell into the street and blocked all the traffic, so we're going to do our good deed of the day. We're going to take our free firewood and open up the traffic. And So you did some city maintenance work. Yeah, here's the thing. We get to the end, and it was so hot and humid yesterday that we're so tired at the end that we said, screw it, the city can reopen the rest of the street. We got the firewood that we need.
Oh, wow. So you tapped out just a touch?
Just a touch, but we got all the firewood that we'll need for this winter into the summer, all the camping firewood I'll need. It was a hard day's work, but we got it done, and I think that's a good metaphor for fall camp as well. A hard day's work, but you get it done, and you're better for it in the end.
It makes you better. It makes you more strong and able to persevere. You'll need it this week with all the temps being what they are. So I took Junior to eat Chinese before we get into football, and in typical fashion, instead of ordering just one entree to split, we now have 2 to-go boxes in the fridge because of just the sheer amount. Been looking for a good Chinese joint. We found it, kind of stumbled upon it not far, and it's really in the location of our old favorite Chinese joint. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome. But that is still with me even today, where I just tried to match how much food a 16-year-old can take down. Usually I'm all right with that. And it's been treadmill and more treadmill time.
See, and I'm trying to go through my Rolodex of Chinese places in town, because you and I are both enthusiasts of takeout Chinese food. And in terms of portions that you can't finish, I assume for a reasonable price.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I took him and his little friend Emma, and the soup. We're nuts. But we order hot and sour soup when it's 87% humidity outside yesterday. Mm-hmm. and it's still awesome because hot and sour soup's the best thing ever. But they bring you a giant vat of it. It's not individual soup bowls. So I've got hot and sour soup. I still got to take that.
I think I know which place you're talking about. We can discuss off air, but I think I know which place you're talking about because it's up there on my list.
I judge, okay, how well does a place do a hamburger? How good is a place's special? And for me, Junior's like, how good are the egg rolls? Well, egg rolls were on point, he says. I didn't get my hands in there with those two because those are all theirs, right? And the hot and sour soup's how I judge.
Oh, it's hot and sour for you? For me, it's both chicken lo mein or sweet and sour chicken.
Okay, well done. 489-1240. If you're calling to say, get the hell into football talk, we're working on that. Get to some emails as well, some leftover emails from the Weekend Edition show. We appreciate everyone submitting and chiming in on that. But going to start off, and we'll have some comments from Matt Rhule.
And Schmidt, before we get there, we have Kendall on the line. I want to talk some Chinese food.
Kendall, thank you for your input. What do you got?
Got a great recommendation. Great family, great food, very clean kitchen. It's Chopsticks on A Street, kind of near the venue. And
yeah. Clock Tower. Right?
Near the top of my list.
Okay.
Fresh food, lots of it, good price, and great people.
Hey, Kendall, thanks, man. We should deem a segment free shout out Monday. Kendall, I've had chopsticks before, and it's good, really good.
It's in my Lincoln top 3. Chopsticks is.
So free shout out Monday. There we go.
Yeah, we didn't say it, but because we have a caller in, we'll say it.
No, that's fine.
This is becoming a segment now where local businesses are going to call in. Yeah, those guys over at.
Elijah's got a form for you to sign for a 6-month guarantee. Once we get the digital signature, shout out away, right? Once you sign the business contract. But no, just like full disclosure, Matt's like General Tao chicken.
General Tso's chicken.
Is it Zo?
Yeah, General Tso.
Okay, I thought it was Tao. I don't know where I get Tao out of that. Forgive me.
I know I didn't take Chinese in high school.
Me neither. Matthew's like, okay, the General's chicken is the measuring stick. Agreed.
That's fair.
For me, I'm an orange chicken guy, and the old place we used to go used to be on O Street, and then it used to be in Alamo Center was Vincent's House of Hunans. Then there was one over there on I think he had 3 locations. He had one on kind of over by Westland. And I need Omaha recommendations for when we roadie up that way as well. Because we like Chinese food.
One final thought on this: are you team egg roll or team crab rangoon?
Oh, it's always I eat both.
Of course.
And
it's deep fried goodness. I'm not going to turn them down.
As a kid, it was always the egg roll with gallons of the sweet sauce.
Yep.
Until Dad made me try the mustard sauce one time, and it was a 4.240 to the can. Okay. And then I grew up and I shifted to crab rangoon.
You know, I'm with you. I'm not going to turn either down, but I'm the same. Growing up, it was always the egg roll, and then I got a little older, and that cream cheese filling inside the crab rangoon.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and Junior's like, hey, old man, you're not going to like these. They're mine. All right, Junior, duly noted. So pretty interesting stuff from Joel Klatt. We'll have to ask Joel when we talk to him Colorado week where he likes to eat Chinese in Boulder. All right, we'll just tie this in, 489-1240. But Joel Klatt weighs in on Nebraska. Klatt's got his own podcast. Klatt's kind of your face of college football, for sure, with Fox, with Big Noon, him and Gus, and they'll be on the call for Boulder. But Klatt dove in to Nebraska, and you've got a little bit of a comparison with Nebraska and CU, and both programs very proud. Nebraska clearly with more history, but Colorado, about 2.5 decades removed from dominance, or at least excellence, and Nebraska not far removed from that same era. It was always the big game of the year in the Big 8 or the Big 12, specifically the North, and after boatloads of coaching changes, both teams find themselves shaken and stirred a little bit, but Colorado's on another coach, and they're off a 1-11 season. So we talk about resurrection, and you have this respectable national level. I think the aim And expectation for Nebraska, first and foremost, is to always be a top 25 program, right? Be what Wisconsin has been, at least ranked. Be what Iowa's been for more years than not. It's not that Iowa doesn't have a down year. It's not that you can't have a down year in college football, because programs have had them. USC's had an underwhelming, underachieving year. Texas has had a slew of them despite their recruiting rankings. Florida has been off since they keep ejecting coaches. Florida State seems to have stabilized a little bit. Miami's on another coach. But think of these name and mainstay programs, guys. And Nebraska is one of them. But, I mean, we're talking about 10 years. 10 years since a top 25 finish. 10 straight years outside that top 25. And with Nebraska, you look at the cultural part. That, to me, is what Matt Rhule, Elijah, has identified and absolutely attacked. And he is, first and foremost, trying to build confidence. But the way they're building confidence isn't just through the words. It's through the actions of how we're going to practice. And I'm not part of the football team, but I'm imagining a quote from Rhule saying, here's how we're going to practice. And that is going to get you ready so you're a good tackling football team. That's going to get you ready so you're good at running the football on third and short. That's going to get you ready when it comes to covering a kick late in the fourth quarter game in East Lansing and not get okey-doked with double safeties back for a punt return. It's the detail and then the drilling of said detail. It's the fundamentals, and it's the reps you're going to keep and continually get if you're Nebraska, first through fifth team. So you're ready. The depth question, you just kind of end up plugging and playing. And you know what? It runs itself because of this culture. And with Nebraska, you just did not have, with the last two staffs, I'm going to go dual here, the accountability portion of it. Some guys were accountable to themselves. Some guys were accountable to their teammates. But if you bet on the fact that the majority of your football team is Amir Abdullah, where you're self-motivated, that's a long shot bet with 18 to 22-year-olds. Instead, be hands-on, have a plan, and communicate and connect with your kids. You do that, and then they see it work. You got to have that moment to see it work, and then things can get stabilized all right. But with Nebraska right now, you look at the choice A or the choice B, the instant success or the slow grind. Nebraska could have instant success with what they've done in the portal. They could have a really, wow, where the hell did that come from season one? I don't think we're all betting on it just because of history and really honestly where Nebraska's at despite a more manageable schedule this year. It's still not easy. The slow grind is going to be the slow and steady that wins the race. And that's, to me, why I think when we talk about the monumental task for Nebraska and Matt Rhule, Joe Klatt touches on in his podcast, yeah, it could take some time. And I think as a Nebraska fan, you're not you want it now. I totally get it, but you understand it can't always happen that quick. It can't be Urban Meyer quick all the time just because of the situation you're walking into.
Well, when you talk about the situation you're walking into, Schmidt, I'm going to go back to the Chinese food analogy. Right now, Nebraska is a bowl of steamed rice with way too much Chinese mustard on top. That's what they are right now. Like, you got a base, you got some good ingredients, but it's not a meal right now because the mustard's overpowering everything and the rice is a little bland. It's not that great. The question is, in year one, in my opinion, can you become fried rice? You know what I'm talking about? Can you add in some veggies, some carrots, some peas, get a little chicken in there? The egg would be fantastic.
Give me some soy sauce, baby.
With the soy sauce, and then you have the whole sauce, the oyster sauce. I think there's some mirin in there. You fry it all up. And we can all sit here and accept the fact that fried rice, probably not a meal you want to eat if you're going out for takeout Chinese. Is it fine? Sure. Do I want an entire bowl of fried rice as an entire meal? I can make it work. I'd like to have some other ingredients in there.
You need some protein.
But the simple fact of the matter is it's 4:30. Mealtime's coming up at 5. I'm not sure you got time to make, sweet and sour chicken, orange chicken, lo mein, all the soups. Like,
can you make what you got good?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying with the fried rice thing, is you have some base ingredients right now. You've added some freshmen into the mix that you think are going to, take some seasoning. You like that food analogy again? Take some seasoning, get better as the year goes on. They fry up with the rice. And then as the years go on, you bring in some recruits. You bring in your chicken, your orange sauce. You bring in your crab rangoon, your egg rolls. And that's where Michigan and Ohio State are right now. They're a complete meal. That's why they're college football playoff contenders every single year. Right now, you're just trying to take that first step towards a complete meal. Take that steamed rice, make it fried rice.
You're trying not to blow up the kitchen. Or you're trying to put the fire out. Someone get Elijah some vending machine stuff so we can stay on topic. Appreciate that, Rhule Aid. Thanks for chiming in. You have Jeff who says Nebraska needs to get 6 wins. Where we get them, I don't care. But we need 6. 6 would be nice, and we'll see if Nebraska. You know what I'm excited about, though? I'm excited about seeing the team play hard, play well, get some of those coin flip wins. Don't expect them all to happen. That's truly a special season. I go back to Iowa's 2015 run in their way to the Big Ten championship game, and that happened because of their ability to win close ball games. We'll have some thoughts with Coach McBride less than an hour away on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're having a lot of Chinese phone calls, either suggestions or where did you go? Again, no free shout-outs on Monday, but you can talk to us off air. Appreciate our friends chiming in here on the Go Big Redcast, incredible podcast with your friends at Hurrdat. They say if you need a team to sample every Chinese restaurant in Lincoln and report back, we're there for you.
Not without us. You better bring us on the tour.
We got to do the Omaha and Lincoln tour. We got to get some Omaha input as well.
This sounds like a whole thing, something we can do all spring long. We'll have a different road show from a different Chinese spot in town.
I think that takes a back seat, quite frankly, to I want to go to every small town bar in Nebraska that has a big red flag or Coors Light or Budweiser.
We'll stick Connor in the studio. I'll go hit a Chinese spot. You go hit a small town bar, and we'll all come back together.
That would be my dream summer roadie. Bring the golf clubs and the small town Nebraska bars. I think that'd be incredible.
I'm in.
Could do it. Charlie McBride with us here in about a half hour. Jay Moore with us, the Blackshirt Hour. Cutter chimes in. Don't you think the football gods will bless us? We've been through the ringer the last decade. If there was a year where things went our way, it could be this one. Law of averages is on our side. You know what, Cutter? Nebraska's had the mother of Murphy's Law seasons. It seems like every year. What can go bad has gone bad. And the blessing is Nebraska's been able to at least try and reset. They've had the fundage and the support and the booster input financially to fire and hire. I mean, think if you're a college football program that's broke. Think if you're a university athletic department that is hemorrhaging money. Okay, because most aren't self-sustaining. Nebraska has been able to make money, raise money, spend money, and a lot of that is thanks to the Big Ten, right? So because it's not been college football playoff paydays, it's not been Big Ten championship paydays, Nebraska has earned their money, at least because of some of the, I mean, listen, Nebraska's been in some helmet games, some have been tight, some have been laughable. The point is people have watched. So at least Nebraska's anteed up that way and brought value that way.
Mm-hmm. You brought value. Now can you bring some extra value on the field? Hurdizel chimes in saying, let's not forget the Solich curse was broken. Cue the fortune cookies. And when it comes to the law of averages from That's Cutter, funny. the Solich curse being broken, something that the past 5 years of watching Nebraska has taught me is that there is luck in the game of football, but you make your own luck.
You got to make your own breaks. Don't fumble it. Don't have a penalty. Don't turn it over. Don't don't get annihilated because you've whiffed on either development or recruiting.
Mm-hmm. It's one thing when the bouncing ball happens to bounce your way. It's another thing whenever you've put the ball on the ball on the ground 4 different times to give yourself 4 opportunities for the ball to bounce your way or the opposition's way. There's an element to making your own luck in football, and yes, it's there. Sometimes it's referee, sometimes it's a bouncing ball, sometimes it's, I don't know, a rainstorm rolling through on the right time whenever you're playing Maryland and now they can't throw the football. There's luck in the game of football, but at the end of the day, you do make your own luck.
Cue up November blizzard is what Elijah's saying. Todd emails in, you can be a solid fundamental and still be outmatched in most games. Todd is not a fan, and Todd, I've got to edit this for radio. He says egg rolls and sushi are not good. This is how we'll say it.
What an edit.
Well, okay.
No, that's a fair edit.
Okay.
You've done well enough. I just think it's it's funny.
Well, the other part, Todd is not done talking Chinese. Who just eats fried rice and you add 2 helpings of chicken to it or beef and broccoli or both and enjoy the soy sauce? It's a staple. Again, Todd, thanks for your input. Periods would be helpful.
Well, and you would hope that the guys that Matt Rhule and company are bringing in the class of 2024 are going to be your sirloin steak so you can make some broccoli beef, or it's going to be your chicken cuts so you can make the fried chicken with a little orange sauce on the side. That's the thing, is what Nebraska added via transfer portal and via these first-year freshmen. It's what you got to throw together. It's what you got to find in the kitchen. You don't have time to go to the store whenever you're a first-year head coach. Like, you found some veggies. That's why I went for the fried rice analogy. Like, you can find that, you can make that pretty quickly, and you can make your rice. You can elevate it and take it somewhere it hasn't been just yet. But the question is with that other stuff is how long is it going to take you to go to the store and grab those ingredients and get them ready to go?
There's going to be an uncanny run on Chinese takeout tonight in Lincoln and Omaha. And
we've done our part.
Central Nebraska, 489-1240. Moonbot, we were talking small town bars in Nebraska. The Hail Varsity radio show tour, hope to tour. Moonbot, part of Free Shout Out Monday, says hit up Toots Bar and Grill in Chapel on your way back from the Colorado game. Dear friend Jolster grew up in Chapel. I need to talk to him about that. I would like to hit a bar or two or several in western Nebraska on the way back. I am working on securing a ride back from one Elijah Herbel.
Cruz says, let's hit the Denton Daily Double.
Yep, that was a staple, big time for when Junior played baseball and had practice on Sundays when he was young in his baseball career. Matt chimes in with UCLA, talking about self-sustaining athletic departments. UCLA's $100 million in the hole. That is no good. So there we have it. Who's on the line?
Yeah, Pete wants to bring us back to football.
All right, Pete, thanks for calling. Go ahead, bud.
How you doing?
Good. What do you know?
Well, I guess in my opinion, if we just cut down on some of the penalties and we just play smart football and quit turning it over in critical times, we'd probably have a winning record in the last 4 or 5 years.
No,
I don't think. I think it just takes hard work. We got to be more physical, and we got to cut down on penalties and turnovers. Play smart.
Well, and how about having the lead, Pete, right? I mean, think about the stress and the forcing it and what causes some of these turnovers. Some of them are careless. Some of them are plays made by the defense that Nebraska's facing because you're in a 3rd and 9 on about every 3rd down. And you're back to throw, and voila, you get smacked. And it comes down to ball security. Pete, thanks for the phone call. Here's what I'm interested in. We've talked a lot about, and we'll get to Rhule here in about 10 minutes. We talk a lot about, what's going on in practice. How is that prepping the guys for Saturday? And you've got a whole new devotion to it with Coach Rhule, kind of in that mold of what Osborne did, where everyone's getting better, everyone's getting a rep, and you've had live practices. That is going to be key, because if you're a quarterback carrying the football, it's been well documented between Adrian and Taylor, right, when you have the dual threat element of a Nebraska offense and quarterback play, with what has gone on with fumbles, right? Poor Taylor's fumbles were leading the country. And then Adrian also had high turnover numbers, and that's too bad because you win with those guys. You're in it with those guys, making plays and really stressing the defense. But time and time again, they just could not take care of the football, and a lot was asked of them, and a lot of times they delivered. But too many times in some key elements in key ball games, they didn't deliver. They delivered the wrong way, and that's with kind of a back-breaking turnover. You think about that Michigan moment a couple of years ago where you're driving down tie ball game, and the whistle should have blown. Absolutely, it didn't. Instead, you get submarined by Hutchinson, and there's a fumble, and then here's a field goal for the win for Michigan. I mean, it's that same moment over and over again. How you practice and prepare, how much you beaten up your quarterback within reason to get him ready for that moment. If God forbid there's a blindside hit, okay, so you get sacked. Instead of a strip sack fumble that Illinois returns before halftime, maybe you hold on to the football, and worst case is you punt it and they got to drive the field on you. You've had those worst case moments happen. I think I'm not saying it can't blow up on you and you can't have some disaster strike, but Nebraska's had a lot of disaster strike. There's been way too many lightning strikes against an offense, and part of that goes back to prep.
And Matt Rhule knows it. Matt Rhule knows what's happened in Nebraska the past couple of years. You're going to read in between the lines with what he said Saturday. Anthony Grant. We have seen the talent from Anthony Grant on the football field. The guy's an athlete. The guy's got potential, I think, to go be an NFL back should he choose to go do so. But that's if he gets the fumbles in check. You heard it from Matt Rhule on Saturday. Hey, Gabe Ervin's our RB1 because Anthony Grant is putting the ball on the ground too much. We can't trust that. And you hear it in the NFL all the time if you watch Hard Knocks or listen to any coach press conference. Ball security is job security. And Matt Rhule said, you know what? Like, I don't necessarily believe that Gabe Ervin is more athletically gifted than Anthony Grant. I think we saw this shimmy.
It's not
we saw
a talent
this speed.
thing.
It's not a talent thing. It's, you know what? Gabe Ervin runs like a Husker running back, and he doesn't put the ball on the ground, so he's going to be our running back one because, as we kind of laid out here, turnovers are backbreaking. They've been backbreaking for Nebraska the past couple years. We saw it in the spring game. If Gabe Ervin's going to protect the football, that's more in line with the Matt Rhule game plan, and he's going to be the guy you're going to roll with.
Vic says the Chinese food analogy, Elijah, is going to be used for Elijah's Sportscaster of the Year nomination.
He says it's not going to be used.
Oh, my fault. Again, I need to read better. Forgive me. No onside kicks. That is what Cutter's wish is. The toxic battle is hit on by Roulade 757. We'll hear Coach Rhule's take on that. But, yeah, you can't play scared, but you can't play loose either. And it just comes down to, okay, if the guy's going to fumble in practice, Anthony Grant, is he going to fumble in the game? What's our trust level like? Can he cover it up? Can he be better in the game? Can he learn from some missteps in practice? Two guys that were elite running backs at Nebraska that had fumbling problems. Can you name them? Amon Green.
Okay.
Amon Green had fumbling problems in the NFL. That's why he got traded from Seattle. He didn't always fumble in Nebraska, but there's a couple of games that, listen, I'm not piling on Amon. He's awesome, incredible ball player. But he fumbled more than a lot of backs. And then one of our favorites, probably my favorite the last few years, is Amir Abdullah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Amir had fumbling issues, and it just was tough. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason I think he come back like he did for his senior year is to run for a buttload of yards, but also show the NFL that I can take care of the football, and he had a great senior season. Matt Rhule's comments from Saturday on the way. It's Hail Varsity.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. We're winding down hour one. It's Hail Varsity presented by Currency. Chris and Elijah. Fake Will Bolt chimes in and says, next time you're heading through Valentine, the Peppermill is a really good small town bar to hit. And I love that. I like between Chinese restaurant suggestions and small-town Nebraska bars, we have quite the food and drink options.
Yeah, we're getting our money's worth in a free shout-out Monday.
Something like that. We ought to kind of carry that through the football seasons. 489-1240, 489-1240. Todd wanted me to know that 3rd and 9, a lot of times it was 3rd and 9 was due to penalties, quote, dummy. Yeah, I get that. There were penalties, especially in the 2021 season. Let's not kid ourselves. There wasn't a great first down run or second down run, even though Nebraska would try a lot of times. 3rd and 9, I would say it'd be 50-50. A lot of the long down and distance for Nebraska football the last few years on 3rd down was due to inadequate run game. Mm-hmm. But I do concede that, penalties for sure were problematic.
And that's one thing that's been swept under the rug a little bit. Maybe people just don't think about it. The fact that Nebraska actually did better than their opponents last year in terms of penalty yardage and penalties. Like, there's going to be penalties in football. That's how it goes. But the fact that Nebraska was better than their opponents in the penalty department last year, I think would surprise a lot of people. It's something that nobody talks about. Nebraska did, in fact, get better with the penalties last season. If there's one thing you can say, it's mostly following the regime change of Frost. Nebraska was pretty clean. They played pretty clean football following that. So I'm not saying we need to disregard penalties as being something to watch out for in year one under Rhule, because it's a new coaching staff and maybe you haven't focused on that. But Nebraska did, in fact, clean up the penalty area of their game last season. So we hear from Matt Rhule on Saturday, went down to post scrimmage and listened to Coach. And the good news is Teddy should be good to go. That sounds very good for Nebraska football. You also have Marcus Washington that's on the way. But overall, from an injury standpoint, those were the two bigger nuggets for me. But Rhule touched on his post-scrimmage thoughts as he weighed in. Nebraska not quite to Minnesota prep, as today is an off day for the Big Red. Yesterday was more of a meeting day. They'll get back at it, and we'll hear from Satterfield tomorrow. But here's Coach Rhule on that post-scrimmage.
I thought it was a lot of fun. First of all, it was really hot, which was great. We were able to get a bunch of plays with the young guys at the end, during the Boneyard Bash. Had the band out there, had a bunch of students there. Thought we played really strong on defense again. I think, guys are really settling into the defense. So the offense put together some nice drives, had some of the issues we had last week in terms of procedure and clock. Those all went away. I thought it was a step in the right direction, definitely a step in the right direction. So, have to watch the tape and see exactly, who performed well. We had one or two players that put the ball on the ground a couple times on offense. I'm not going to indict everyone for that, but, we had a guy, really two guys that has to protect the ball better. But, I think our defense is definitely being physical and hitting. So still some work to do in the kicking game, still some work to do on offense and on defense, but I like where we're at right now.
Elijah, you had your own set of eyes. Well, not you physically specifically, but you have those close to the Elijah Herbel orbit in the stands.
Yeah, my little sister. It's her first year in the Cornhusker Marching Band. So first off, congrats, Lily, making the Cornhusker Marching Band. Everyone's coming to the game for you. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Also, her report,
especially the last 10 years.
She said Boneyard Bash was hot and boring. Good, I guess. One thing I'll say, and this is coming from her, not a big football fan, but she does watch and follow the game. Wide receivers kept dropping easy passes.
Did she specify if they were experienced wide receivers or they were young?
I don't think she would even know from her experience, but that is one thing to note from the Boneyard Bash. Her eyes is that the wide receivers were dropping some passes out there and the offense was boring, which, hey, it's the Big Ten. Your offense is supposed to be a little bit boring in the Big Ten, but the drop passes are something to be concerned about.
More from Rhule, what he likes, what impresses him about the defense. This might be what you hang your hat on for Nebraska early when we talk about win probability.
Yeah, I just think they run and hit, they run and tackle really well. I think we're playing the run game well and creating some negative plays. As I said, they knocked the ball out a couple times. They're really physical. So, I'd say that's their strength. Just kind of that flocking of the ball and striking people. They're doing that at a high level.
Does it sound, or are they giving up any big plays?
We're giving up some in practices. I can't remember what it was today. Maybe one, but they're not giving up. We're certainly sound. I wouldn't allow it to not be sound. Now does a guy get blocked sometimes in a play hit? Yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, I think we're playing good team defense.
So I don't expect this defense to have to be 0-9 good, nor can they be 0-9 good from a personnel standpoint, at least on their face right now. 0-9 had to be perfect about every Saturday. You're not going to be perfect every Saturday. You're going to get creased a couple of times, but your offense can't be anemic or either all foam or no beer or all beer, no foam. I mean, you can't rely on the big play. You've got to have some consistency, Elijah, to what you want to do well offensively, and it's got to work. However you get points, there needs to be a little bit more of a methodical part to this offense this year where you can put a drive together. You may have a big play within that drive. Great. But it can't be reliant this year, like last, on throwing a punt up to Palmer.
And when was the last time you think Nebraska had that methodical offense that could go march up and down the field? Do you have to go back to the Divine Ezigbo year with Scott Frost's first year? Because you had the consistent rushing attack.
By the last fourth of 18. Yeah. But there was a lot of big plays in the run game. And you had, of course, you had Stanley in the passing game that was big. You had just a great mix when we go back to the Taylor era of Amir being able to rip off a big run, or even Tommy's first year or second year, where you could find a Kenny Bell or an Anunwa, or you'd have Amir break one off. I mean, they had a lot of really good talent.
And I think you have to go back to the Pelini years to be the last time you could feel like Nebraska would consistently get to second and manageable.
Well, they were scoring 35 a game in the Big Ten.
But that's the last time. Like, more often than not, Nebraska on first down is going to find a way to get to second and less than 7.
Sure.
That was probably the Pelini years, the last one I have to go back to, or maybe the 2016 year.
They had an offensive line and a running back that could go get you 3rd and 3.
Funny how that works. Funny how having an offensive line and a running back gets you methodical offense in the Big Ten.
Let's talk about Sims and turnovers. Coach Rhule addressed it.
Yeah, just taking great care of the ball. I think when the Big Ten Network came, they talked about him, being the highest in college football in terms of returning turnovers. I wouldn't have ever suspected that because just being around him. So I went back and watched them. There was a lot of times you would say they were probably not his fault. He was getting hit, or someone got hit and dropped the ball. I think Jeff's taking great care of the ball. It's a fine line, right? Like, we talk about the toxic battle here. It's an old Brian Billick stat. We want to win the turnover battle, but also win the explosive play battle. So we can go out there and go into a shell and not turn the ball over ever, but go 3 and out. It's the same thing, right? So we want to be explosive, and I think Jeff is learning that line of when to be explosive, when not, when to take a chance and when not to. So. We don't want to play scared. That's the biggest thing for this group is they can't play scared. So, but I think he's done a really nice job, Steve. I think he's playing really good football, and there's still a lot to learn. I know we're playing on 8/31, but there's a lot of games after that, and so we're just trying to get better and better and better and better and better every day. So, I think we'll see him play really good football this year.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, 10 minutes away from Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. A Monday with Charlie, the Blackshirt Hour with Jay Moore. So Jay Bird going to be following Coach McBride. 489-1240, talking a little bit here about Coach Rhule and his post-scrimmage thoughts. So the topic of RB1 and Gabe Ervin and Anthony Grant and the rest of that running back room, Ramir Johnson, Emmett Johnson. Here's Coach on why Gabe is right now top of that depth chart.
For us, I think we feel like Gabe is clearly the number one guy. Ramir, clearly the third down back and still a runner, right? But Ramir's ability to track protections and catch the ball in the backfield is pretty special. I think every scout that comes in here, I tell them all, like, hey, I had Jermichael Hasty at Baylor still playing. I said he's just like him. He can run option routes, choice routes. So I think Ramir's got a future. Ramir has a little tweak to his hammy, so you asked about the injury report. Should be back this week. Just kind of got tight on him the other day, so we held him. But should be fine. So, I think kind of situationally those two guys. And then Anthony is, when the ball's in his hands, Anthony's elite running the football. Anthony just, he's put the ball on the ground too much. He's fumbled the ball too much. And no matter how talented you are, if you fumble the football, you can't play for us. So we're going to continue to work on it with AG. He's had a good camp up until the last couple of days and sort of turned the ball over, but it's been an issue. And I normally wouldn't say that out loud, but I'll say it because Anthony, he knows exactly, hey, I've got to conquer this. But when he's right, he sees it as well as anybody. And then we have a 1-2-3 punch. And then I'd say Emmett Johnson is, he's in the running to be our starting kick returner. And Emmett's he's a versatile all-around back, and I think he can help us as well.
So that's the rundown, and you've got some reality there with Grant because you know the potential, and you know some of the pitfalls now, and that's holding on to the football, and you don't want it to. Yeah, it's a physical thing of taking care of the ball, but it can be a mental thing where you're worried about it. And like for Amon Green, when I talk about Amon would wear these elbow pads to help kind of dial back how much he sweat. That's why he fumbled. It wasn't a technique thing for him. It's a real thing where that part of his body, he just would excessively sweat and get the football to pop out. Last side here from Coach Rhule on what he specifically likes about Irvin. Irvin's got the size, the speed, the power, and, of course, that hunger going for him.
I didn't see him before, so I can't say, from the day I got here, I was like, wow, that's what they're supposed to look like. You know what I mean? Like, he's big, he's powerful. He can run behind his pads. He can run inside zone, outside zone, power, counter, anything you want to run duo. He's good in protection. He's consistently still trying to work on his hands. His hands are the number one thing that keeps him from being on the field all 3 downs. But he can catch. He just has to, that's what he's working on. But, it's very rarely that you have a guy that's, 225 pounds and also runs 4.4, you know what I mean, and has lateral movement. So, I know he started as a freshman. I know he had that injury. But I can't imagine many better than that kid. So I've been impressed with him since the day we got here.
It's a nice A, B, C, and D list for one Gabe Irvin. Reminder about your friends at the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. They tell you to buckle up. Hands on the wheel, eyes in mind. Straight ahead, the driver has one job. That's to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Charlie McBride coming up on Monday with Charlie and Jay Moore. The Blackshirt Hour. Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hour 2 at Hail Varsity, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie. Coach, we're almost there, about 10 days from kickoff. How we doing?
Well, I know I'm doing okay. If you're a player, you might start to get a little nervous, I guess.
I hear it. I hear it in your voice.
I don't know. I wasn't smart enough to get nervous.
That's okay.
I didn't. That's like me. We have some coaches that they know when the game's over, I couldn't think about the game anymore. I had to go to the next game fast, so I could start on get the whole plans ready. So it's a little different, and and somebody had to ask me before the game of actually what was the score last week. It would probably be first who'd we play, it's like that. But so it's hard for. It's easier for some of the assistants to remember a lot of the things, and I remember all the things that we have to work on and all that. You always write that down, and you always, go over that stuff and with the coaches and everything. That's part of the procedure, but that's just the way it is. It's hard to remember the past. What I learned from the past is when I wasn't here, I know more about when I wasn't here than I do when I was.
It's okay to have a little tunnel vision and get ready and prepped for next week. That's Charlie McBride with us on Monday with Charlie. Did you ever stop, though? You had to have. And smile, not get complacent, but smile about a big win. They're all important. All of them are, big wins. But I'm talking about if you guys took down an Oklahoma or a Texas or a national championship, I would assume you had a chance to just relish in that moment and be proud of the kids.
Yeah, well, some of those games, are funny because some of them are come from behind type of things, and you feel good about it. But when you look at there's a reason why you're coming from behind, and so so it's not. It's when you start boiling it down, it's not all good. Even though when you're winning, it's really hard to keep up with it. To keep up with the things that you need to get done. And if you get to a point where you have so many, it's hard in practice to get ready for the next game, plus work on the things that you were not good at, which we try to do in more in an individual basis than we do as a team. We get ready as a team pretty much more. Was during the week was more on the other team, the other team. But early in the week, Monday especially, was the day when you could talk about it, and then we put anything new in, we'd go out and have a walkthrough and go through it with everybody, and walk through it and so on and so forth, so that on Tuesday we're ready to rock and roll. When we'd have pads on Monday anyway. We were one of those teams that we wore pads every day but Thursday.
It's Charlie McBride with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Charlie, whenever you talk about game prep, I want to get your thoughts on preparing for the first game, because that's where Nebraska is at right now. They've finished up fall camp. They're into their preparation for Minnesota, a simulated game coming Thursday, and then you'll really dive into the week of game prep. But fall camp is over, and tell me, in an average year, how many questions do you still have going into that first game? Because that's something we've discussed here on this show in terms of...
I got a sheet full of them, the questions that we ask ourselves every week. We go through them every week, and I mean... it's kind of like a checklist. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like getting on an airplane where the pilots are all grab the sheet. No matter what they do, they grab the sheet and go through the checklist. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same thing you do with them. The problem with the first game is you don't know what they've changed. Even though they have done well, the teams that usually have done well don't have many changes. But we always had, especially on offense and defensively, we might have added a blitzes or some different kind, maybe zone blitzes or something, or more of them, or less of them, and more something else. And offense, you may end up, putting in a series that you could run that would start out simple and maybe was going to develop. So it all depends on the players. It all depends on, and what you want to do. But most of the successful teams are going to use their hardcore. If they're winning, they're going to use their basic stuff they've used in the past. It's the new stuff that they have, the secrets, the little tricks, all those things that get you, that you worry the most about.
Charlie McBride's joining us on Monday with Charlie, Hail Varsity Radio, set to go into another season. 10 days, a little less than 10 days from Nebraska, Minnesota, and Minneapolis. We'll be up there at the Graduate for all sorts of pre-games, Wednesday, Thursday, and then reaction into Friday. So excited for the road show up there. Coach Rhule talked about that toxic battle and not playing scared on offense. That fine line, and you've gone up against a bunch of offenses that have the ability and some guys that can really mess with a defense in the form of big plays and athleticism. The downside to some of those offenses, though, has been how turnover-prone they are. And I want your perspective on preparing for somebody like that, where it could be a feast or a famine. You give up, or a guy makes a big play, but he also is very problematic with turnovers in big moments.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when you start the week out, you tell the players what are the things we really got to stop, or the person we really have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of if you look at some of the past reports from other people or anything, they always have a section in there where it says, who do we have to stop to win?
Right.
And, and so there's going to be a receiver, a quarterback, a running back. There's going to be, an offensive line that's something special. And so the players are thinking about that all week. And, when you think about it and you keep going over in your head over and over, and then sometimes you get better at it. I mean, you're not going in with any kind of surprise. You're going, we got to stop this back or something. And darn well, you've seen guys that if we don't stop this running back, we're going to get beat. I mean, and so that's how it kind of works. The players kind of, in some ways, you're going to work on the things, in your teamwork and in your half-line scrimmages and all those different things. You're going to work on some of those things, but the kids are thinking about it all the time, and they're being reminded by the coaches, here's this guy right here does this or does that better than the other people and this and that. And so it's pretty simple to figure it all out, but when it comes for the coaches, they don't have to play. And so they can tell you, they sound like a bunch of, rocket scientists. And the kids have to play. So you got to get them the true facts and make them easy for them to, remember anything and try to group them. Mm-hmm. Give them their 5 best running plays or their 4 best running plays and what's are they immediate, intermediate passing team? Are they a deep ball? Are they going to deep ball? How many times a game? Stuff like that that helps them a lot, that they can be aware of. And down and distance, I used to work, the linebackers seem to, in the secondary, the backside guys always seem to spend more time, but I spent as much time talking about, tendencies with the defensive linemen as I did. For example, if you have a one-back set and there's one back there, is he on your side? Is the tight end on your side? Is it the strength call is on your side? Yeah, they have certain plays that they run over there, and they have certain plays they run back. And there's only 2 or 3 of them. So you start picking them out, and the kids start knowing, I could get that trap now, and they think it over in their head time and time again. And that's, you just try to hope they remember some of the stuff. But, you can't overload them. They got school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's Charlie McBride with us here in Hale Varsity. And Charlie, take me back. Which offensive player were you most scared about playing or most worried about playing after a full week of game prep? Are there any that stand out in your memory of getting to Saturday and saying, man, I hope that defense remembers what I told them this week?
Yeah. You want me to tell you who the best back I think was?
Sure.
I personally think I think I probably maybe say it because I went to school there, but Eric Biemeny was a guy that got yards when he needed them. And if you look a little bit at the kid, Eric was super strong. And when if they needed 3 yards, he's going to get them. I mean, you could put any, but that kid was his mind was built to do it. And there's the kid at Michigan, the little back that you're going to look at him. He never goes backwards. Mm-hmm. So there's things like that. You'll tell kids and you'll try to get them to, realize how tough these guys are and how fast the team is, for example, or how fast this, if it's an offensive. Talking to them from the offensive side, what defensive guys are really fast and then there's certain guys that we can beat. There's certain guys we can't. And on offense, it's usually down a distance stuff. And when you got a guy like Biemeny he was He was small, low to ground, and powerful, and could run like a deer. I mean, he could really run. And so those are the kind of things you talk to him about. I mean, during the week, you read the reminder, and that's why I guess some of them called me Coach Run It Again. Everybody, hey, Coach, run it again. The scout team guys called me that, and they knew the second time if I said run it again, they're going to get blown up.
Coach, I wanted to ask.
We're going to stop it,
I wanted to ask you about Polar Bear. There's been a lot of positive commentary about Nash Hudmacher coming out of camp. What's Nebraska got to have from their nose tackle in reference to what the Big Ten is? Yes, stopping the run, but it sounds like there's some big-time upside for the Polar Bear coming into this season with this defense.
Well, that's okay, because if he can occupy two guys, that's one guy there, one guy short.
Yeah.
And it's getting knocked off the ball more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you have two guys blocking you half the time, and a lot of times they're trying to do combo blocks, and there's things that you can do that will cause them some real problems as far as front alignment. So that they can't do what they want to do, and they can't put two guys on them. The one thing I think is really hard for them is if they have defenses where you're a two-gap player.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to play those guys because they're going to lose.
Sure.
And you can't. I mean, there's in pro ball, it's and in blitzes there are times when you have to. But in professional football, they'll always ask me when I was a coach. They always come in, and the scouts will always ask me, "Can he two gap?" Well, we probably Christian and Danny Noonan and some of those guys could probably, they can two gap. That means they can straighten you up, play both sides.
Man.
But we were a gap responsibility team. And, but I'd have to show you, but we would actually teach a kid to play two gaps, but he didn't know it. But we were responsible for that gap. And I had a saying that if you don't play your gap of responsibility, you can come over. I got a little piece of grass next to me. We can both watch the game together. So it was a serious deal. I mean, I'd rather have the guy go for 3, 4, 5, 6 yards than I would have him cut back and you're in the wrong place. Now the linebackers are out of whack and everything else, because as soon as you make a mistake, then other guys are out of if they're playing their responsibility, you got a hole in your defense.
Yep, and it's a house call, perhaps, and that's no good.
Well, then it's my name in the paper for being what.
Coach, we will gear up and be ready to talk Nebraska, Minnesota next Monday. How's that sound?
That sounds good. I'm looking forward to it, really. And I'm going to say this. It's going to sound pretty stupid. I want to see their effort and how they play, because I can tell right now if they play as hard as they can, then it's going to be really a war.
Sure.
But if something goes haywire, then you kind of have some holes where you can talk about, we need to do this and we need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you win, there's going to be those holes.
Sure.
So that usually comes up in the coaches' meeting rooms and stuff like that. And sometimes fans don't see every bit of it.
Coach, we'll talk about it and get ready. Thanks so much for the time.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you next week. Okay. Bye now.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. The Blackshirt Hour commences And Jay Moore with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up at JMoore44 on Twitter. Bird, we got to ask, how was the 40th celebration? Or 39 again?
Yeah, it was good. Got together with some good friends, played some golf. Got a couple days of golf in this week.
Oh, good.
Kind of treated it more as a birthday week instead of just a day, maybe like 2 days essentially. So no, it was good. It was golf and some cold beverages and good friends. That's that's all I need for turning 40, and I'll take that for here and out.
There we go. I love it. All right. Any birdies? Any aces? Any eagles?
There's some birdies. Yeah, there's some birdies. No aces, unfortunately, and no eagles either. So golf's been a little it's been tough for me this year, dealing with some injuries. But I'm just happy to get out, and these injuries will get fixed here soon. But I'm just happy to play and be around some great people and enjoy some, a cocktail or two.
So before we talk football, overrated rule that if you do hit a hole-in-one, you've got to buy the round. Shouldn't it be the other way around?
You would think so, but that's like the one time I'm happy to pay for it. I'm happy to pay that tab. I am. It's just like it's a right. It's been around forever. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I tell you what, there's so many. I've been with people who have made one, and they say, keep your mouth quiet. Don't say a thing.
Right.
I'll get you a drink, but don't run your mouth, because I know there's who else is out on the golf course.
Clubhouse.
And I don't need to be down $1,000 at the end of the day. But I'm happy to pay, I'm happy to pay that bill. I am. It's just, that'd be fun. And I'd want everyone else to enjoy and have fun as well.
Jay Moore is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, I wanted to dive into Joel Klatt before we get into some of Rhule's comments from the weekend. And Joel, I know, is a guy you know well, and he's been on our show a few times over the years. And on his podcast, he dove into the job Rhule has in front of him and called Nebraska a monumental task just because of where the program has fallen. You've got cultural issues that have turned into problems, close ball games, 6 straight losing seasons, 10 seasons outside the top 25, and it's a total rebuild. How do you view this situation for Rhule when it comes to instant success versus a slow grind? Do you think they have the roster to surprise this year?
I do. I just don't know if they have the depth.
Okay.
It's a very fragile. It's a fragile team. I think on the surface, there's enough talent there. I can look at the schedule and argue you can find 7 wins. I truly do believe that. But again, it's one of those injuries coming, and who is it to? Is it Jeff Sims? If Jeff Sims gets banged up early, it could be a very long year for this football team. If you have some offensive linemen that go down, it could be a very long year for this offense. And that's just how it goes. I just don't think we're as deep, and we're very, very young. I think there's a little over 100 guys who are sophomores and younger on this football team. So that's saying something. And I know they still played some ball, but you'd like to have an old team. The old teams always do very, very well and are very, very successful. But I don't think a monumental undertaking that's a little – I don't know about that. I think this team has enough – listen, what he did at Temple and what he actually did taking over Baylor, that was monumental. The situation he got into. I know Baylor's historically – not a blue blood program, but when he takes over a team that has 40 scholarship players on it, is able to transform that thing and make it a winning program just 2 years later. That's monumental in my opinion. But I think he has lots more to work with here. Obviously the pressure is vastly different than Temple and then at Baylor, but he knows that. And with the pressure, there's expectations too. But I think people have tempered expectations because of what happened with Scott Frost. I think people are tired of, drinking too much Kool-Aid and tired of getting burned and having, their hopes shot down. And that's, we thought when Scott got here, we thought this thing was a done deal. He was going to get us back to where it was, and I was far from it. So I think he has enough cards in the deck to get some things done and some wins accomplished. But again, like I said, if there's injuries, man, to your offensive line, which is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're developing some more depth, and if you get Jeff Sims dinged up early in the year, that's going to change it. And that's going to change for any team, really, in college football. There's a reason he's a starter. It's very, very rare where, back in the day of, the 90s where, Tommy Frazier goes down and Brooke Barons is able to come in and just keep this thing going. That was a very, very unique situation where you essentially almost had two starters. But young football team, and I think depth is not in our favor. So with that being said, if we get a couple bounces and guys stay healthy, I think we can. I think making a bowl game in year one is very, very realistic.
Well, Jay, whenever you talk about having a season that surprises, I think the term surprise is a little subjective. So what would that look like to you if you're defining, Nebraska in year one surprised some people? What does that season look like? Are we talking 8-4 or better? What's your definition?
Yeah, I would say 7-5, 8-4.
Okay.
I'd probably say more 8-4. Like I said, if I go through I went through it and the potential records and the wins and losses, and I don't think they beat Minnesota, but I think they get Colorado. I think they get the two other non-conferences. I don't think they're going to beat Michigan. I don't think they're going to beat Illinois. I think they're going to struggle at Michigan State, Wisconsin, but I think they can get Maryland and Purdue, and I think they can get Iowa at the end of the year too, as long as they're healthy. So you can find 7 wins in there. I truly believe that. If they get to 8, that means you're knocking off. You're winning some really good games. You're either getting road win at Illinois on a Friday night. You're beating Wisconsin in Wisconsin. You're potentially beating Michigan State at Michigan State. I know I don't know where that Mel Tucker team is at right now, but I still think it's always a tough place to play in East Lansing. So I think 8-4 would definitely be a surprise for me and for the majority of Husker Nation.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, Coach Rhule talked Saturday, was asked about his defense, and, from an identity standpoint, it sounds like they get to the football, they're very physical, and they tackle well. What's that translate to you? It's pretty cut and dry there, but do you like what that definition's been painted as?
Very much so. And I kind of saw that in the spring game. Everyone just seemed to be in the right place and never seemed to be there's always a football, like a saying in sports is be quick, but not in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
I just seemed like they were always in the right spot. They weren't panicking. They knew where their help is, because I think that's not talked about enough in defense, is forcing players to a certain way, forcing them into your help. And I think they understand that role very, very well. So those are all really, really good things to hear, because in the 3-3-5 defense, you can, I would think, be out of control, because there's constant chaos, people moving, coming, going, showing, doing all sorts of things. So I think I'm very, very happy to hear that tackling and guys being under control. That's what you want. You want to play fast, but you just don't want to be out of control, because you can obviously knock your own players off, and you can cause all certain things to go wrong where they can get 6 points really, really quickly. So like I said, I'm not super surprised, because of what I saw in that spring game, and that's really all I've seen from the 3-3-5 defense with Tony White, is that they just look to be under control, fast but under control. And that's really, really good, coaching, and that's really, really good, adapting to techniques and in the new coaching with that these guys have gotten with the new staff so far.
And Jay, we've laid it out a couple times here on this show. One of the big keys for the team this year is going to be to get to even or positive in turnover differential. And that's one of the big questions we have right now whenever you hear stories out of camp of Anthony Grant. He's putting the ball on the ground too much. And you saw this spring game with the turnovers there, and you think back to Jeff Sims' history at Georgia Tech with the interceptions. And it's unclear right now. Does Nebraska have turnover issues in camp because of this defense and what they put together with the 3-3-5, or is that just an issue with the offense with turnovers? And that's kind of what's so tough about this time of year, is sometimes questions are just going to remain unanswered up until you play that first football game.
Yeah, most definitely. It's a chicken or the egg, right? Is your defense causing all these turnovers, or is your offense not performing very well? Are they fumbling snaps? Those ones I get. It's the sloppy turnovers. I know they're not going to go into much detail, but the defense is doing a great job of, forcing fumbles, putting the helmet on the ball, ripping the ball out, gang tackling someone, ripping the ball out, getting hands on tip passes, and those get intercepted. Those are good. Those are going to happen. You obviously got to work on ball security, but the things I'd be super concerned about is, just the careless stuff, the fumbled snaps, bad snaps, poor reads, and interceptions that, just shouldn't happen, or maybe a place where you could throw the ball away and live to fight another day, but you try to force it into somewhere, and those kind of turnovers you can't deal with. But yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see. I know we're 10 days away from this first game, and you can go back and forth what you think's going to happen and what may or may not happen. I'm excited to see everything kind of play out, obviously, as we get closer and closer. But yeah, it's hard to really read in between the lines too much, because you just don't really know the whole story unless you actually got to see the practice. And I haven't seen any practices, and I know most of the practices have been closed. So I tell you what, I know they're getting better. They're working on things, and you're going to have that's during the first scrimmage. You're going to have some issues, some sloppiness, but I guarantee you they're going to get it cleaned up.
A few minutes here, Jay Moore with us, Hail Varsity Radio at JMoore44 is where you follow him on Twitter. You watch him on Big Red Wrap-Up, Husker NFL standout. Jay, I wanted to get your thoughts on another phrase or a couple of words that Matt Rhule touched on in reference to the offense and Elijah's question regarding turnovers. And you have that balance here, that yin and yang of being aggressive but not careless. And he's like, I don't want us, and I don't think we will, play scared. And is that a concern on offense, to be afraid to let it rip? And conversely, on defense, do you worry about just being a bit too tentative because it is a year one in the new system?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't be a concern of mine. I think sometimes you can almost play even more freely because you really got nothing to lose.
Sure.
It is year one. I know for maybe some of these other players, and I would say for the new guys, there might be some hesitancy. But for these older guys who played football, man, you're still 11-11. You still got to do your assignment. You still got to make a tackle, make a catch, break a tackle, do whatever you have to do, make a block. It's still kind of boils down to doing what you're being taught and coached to do. So I think the older guys, I have no concern. But when you're a young team like Nebraska is, I could see them being a little hesitant just because you don't want to make a mistake. And you can't, and you think about certain things and make mistakes. And that's what older players do so well, is they understand what you're capable of doing physically from within an offense or a defensive scheme, and setting yourself up to be successful in that one snap. Whether it's setting yourself up, if you're a defensive end lining up in a C gap and you got to get to the B gap, well, you might have to cheat down a little bit, and setting yourself up for success. Now, you don't want to cheat down too much to give it away, or if you're in coverage and you don't have inside help, well, you better line off back up into the inside to protect the inside if you don't have any help. So certain things like that, you just got to know and understand things that the older players will do. And then once you kind of set yourself up for success pre-snap in alignment, assignment, getting your eyes in the right place, then you can kind of let it go and rock and roll, because you've done everything you need to do. Now you just got to be an athlete and go play football.
Jay, how difficult is it to get used to the feeling of playing in front of 90,000 people live in a stadium? And on top of that, the amount of people that are going to be watching you on TV. Is there an adjustment process there for younger guys within the program to realize, yeah, there's 90,000 people here, but I need to be able to play carefree, stress-free, I guess worry-free in terms of not wanting to make a mistake in front of such a large crowd? Is there an adjustment process to that?
I don't think so. It wasn't for me. I didn't play to my sophomore year, and once you're out there, you're just playing football. You hear the crowd after you make a play, but once you're kind of focused on your keys and what you need to do, you kind of zone everything out, and just becomes like you try to do in practice. And that's, I think that's what good football teams are able to do, and good football players are able to do, is just kind of zone all that stuff out, shut out the noise, and kind of worry about what you need to get done. So I think maybe early on, for players during warm-ups and things like that, they could get a little sidetracked. But I think once the game happens and you got the nerves and everything else is going, and you just know once you hear that play called, you need to be keyed in and zoned in on what your assignment is. If it's a certain blocking assignment or the route that needs to be ran or a gap needs to be established for a defensive lineman, you just got to be focused on that and not what other 90,000 people are doing behind you.
Jay Moore is with us. Couple more minutes at Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, what a shift to the facilities. That video dropped this morning. Elijah and I have kind of went, wow, what a really cool new locker room. And I know we were talking before we jumped on. Your class made that, I guess, the last transition into the newer facilities almost 2 decades ago. Your take on where facilities are in the pecking order, the importance level in this new era of college football when you have NIL?
Yeah, it's crazy. These $150 million plus facilities that we're seeing all over the country. Florida just had a new one. Kansas just opened up a new one. But that's what you have to do. It's the arms race of major Division I sports. You have to compete and to get the players, and you have to have the donors able to donate the money, the extra money that's needed, and then you have to sell it to the recruits. And we moved in 2006 to the new North Stadium expansion, and I know things are still kind of more in the northeast stadium now, but it's crazy. That was 17 years ago. We moved in there, and we saw the video, and the place just looks amazing. I haven't stepped foot in there yet, but it looks really, really good. And the thing is, now these facilities, we had it really, really well. I mean, it still is a great facility, only being 17 years old. But I tell you what, you don't have to leave. They have everything there for you. I mean, you can take naps in there. You can do, you can get meals. You can get massages. You can, everything is right there. And and that's where you have to be. As a student athlete, you don't have much time. So you want to be as efficient as possible in your day. And you like to have the kids around the facility just because, that's how you develop relationships and camaraderie, but also you kind of are able to keep tabs on your players as well when they're young, when you don't have, maybe don't have all the trust in them. So, but really, really cool. And it's just going to keep evolving. All these facilities are, and probably 20, I don't know where they're going to go next. So they need a new one in 20 years because there's not much more real estate around Memorial Stadium to keep on expanding. We'll have to take down Old Father or something like that here soon if they're going to, expand into the East Stadium. So, but I'm glad it was getting done. It was getting close to crunch time, and I know there's still a few weeks till the first home game. But I know that's cool. It's fun to be a part of and be that first team that gets to use the new facilities, and I hope it equates to a few more wins too.
Jay, I never got to see the tunnel walk flip from the south part of the stadium to the north part of the stadium. So this is going to be weird for me to see the tunnel walk move from the northwest corner to the northeast corner. And I want to get your reaction to that. Do you care at all about which tunnel the team comes out of? It's just going to feel weird to me. And I don't know, maybe it's time to update the tunnel walk song as well. That would, I think, put Husker Nation up in arms.
Look at you coming off the top rope.
If you're making such a monumental change, I mean.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to see. Are they potentially going to switch sidelines this year too? Are they still going to be on the east, or are they going to the west?
I don't know.
Not aware.
Not aware. Okay, we're discussing today that someone had heard that they were going to be on the west. I didn't know. I'm like, they've been on the east sideline for how many years? I think they used the west during COVID, but other than that, I think it's really cool. I'm always for. I like certain traditions, but I always like change. I like tweaking things, doing something new, something different, keeping it fresh. I don't know if I would. The tunnel walk still holds a special place in my heart. That you hear that intro, that first sound that that we all know from the Alan Parsons Project. That's still pretty darn cool. I don't know what else you could do to help because that's been going on since '94. So that's a tough one to change. But you got a new facility. It makes total sense to come out the other way, and it's gonna be cool. I can't wait when they finally get that first home game. And you kind of see everything and you see all the new changes that the stadium was going to undertake here this past spring and summer. So I'm looking forward to it.
Jay Moore is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Big Red wrap up, Jay. Another season for you, and another new coach and season to follow along. I know folks will be able to catch you and the crew on Tuesday nights.
Yep, first show August 29th. Looking forward to it. Myself and Michael Severe and Damon Benning and Sean Callan, the usual crew that's been rocking and rolling for the last, 3-4 years now. So it's just a new era of Nebraska football, and I'm looking forward to having something new to talk about, and hopefully, like I said, more wins, because it just seemed like in the years past you could have switched out. You could have taken the recording from the previous week and just somehow dubbed over Indiana with Northwestern or whatever. It just seemed like it was the same old issues week in and week out, unfortunately. But I think some brighter days are ahead for this program, and I'm going to be looking forward to talking with you guys and Michael and Damon on bigger wrap-up as well.
Jay-Bird, have a good week, and thanks for giving us a few minutes again.
Yep, you got it. Thanks, boys.
Good to spend time with Jay Moore, Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, the Blackshirt Hour winding down with Jay and Charlie McBride. Catch both of them if you didn't catch all of it on the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Easy for you to hit subscribe and download Hail Varsity Radio and do so on those platforms. The video up just mere moments after the show is done on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. So you can check the show out video form, and the replay always up on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Give that a follow. Some thoughts on Harbaugh's suspension when we wind it down next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, tomorrow on the show, we'll catch up with Mitch Sherman. Lars Anderson going to join us on the program, and a busy list of guests for the rest of the week as we get closer to the trip to Minnesota and Goldie Land. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence. If you missed any part of the Chinese food discussion, that was pretty prevalent in hour one. So good luck with that. We've got a winner. Me and Junior do for Chinese feed bag time after church on Sundays. Excited about that. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan self-imposing a 3-game ban for Harbaugh. So that's Michigan's response. Issues still unresolved with the NCAA. It looked like a 4-game suspension was going to be handed down, and then somehow the brakes were slammed on that by the NCAA. The 3-game self-imposed suspension by Michigan and Harbaugh, pretty indicative of how severe these penalties could be for the head Michigan coach. He will be able to coach during the week, but not on game day Saturday against East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green. He'll be back unless things are tweaked for Rutgers, and then before Michigan comes to Lincoln for that 11 a.m. kickoff.
And I missed a little bit of this because I might be deserving a raise after this one. I was just taking a phone call and didn't recognize the call on the other end, so I'm like, all right, let's see what they want to talk about. And he says, well, I want to talk about Donald Trump and his indictments. And I said, I don't think you got the right radio show here. And he was mistaken in his number. He wanted to talk to a different radio station than us. And I'm like, he said, what are you guys talking about right now? And I said, Husker Football. And he goes, oh, no, that's not the right show. And he hangs up. So
thanks for listening.
Yeah, Elijah Herbel here earning his paycheck.
489-1240. Yeah, well, and, you've got, at least locally here on KFOR, you can check us out in the morning 6 to 9, KFOR Morning News. There's plenty of indictment talk there. And then, of course, Dan Bongino at 11, locally here in Lincoln. Anyway, I know we're on several different spots across the state, so forgive that little shout-out. But, yeah, we're hitting football right now. That's where we're at.
I'm trying to find a funny little analogy for indictments in football, and it's not coming to me right now.
Well, I mean, we're talking Michigan and self-indictment by Jimbo and the university, and that's their answer. All right, you didn't like the 4, fine. We'll do 3 ourselves and let you sort it out. This is your make or break for Jim Harbaugh, because he stomps off to the NFL after this year. If the NCAA comes down on him hard, first and foremost, you need to get over the hump this year and get to a championship game. Okay, you've been there twice to the playoff, and you have another squad that's good enough to do it. You heard Coach McBride talk about Blake Corum and how good a back he is with what Michigan has in that backfield and the offense and defense, all phases of football. You've conquered the Dragon in Ohio State. You're in their head, and the pressure's been flipped. It's now on them to not lose a third straight game. So this is it, because if Harbaugh gets to another playoff, puts a title run together, or at least gets to the title game appearance, and he's over putting up with the NCAA.
They've hopped over Ohio State. The question this year is, can they hop over Georgia?
Well, and you would think Georgia gets there. Talk to you at 4 tomorrow. Thanks.